Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. As the fight over gay rights dominates so many discussions across the country, we've got one of the leading voices right here in our studio. Back in 2019, we first met Chasten Buttigieg. Let's show you him on the cover of Time magazine back then, as his husband, Pete Buttigieg, ran for president. They had that big title there, First Family. Well, in September of 2020, he joined us here on The Issue Is to talk about his memoir, I've Got Something to Tell You, which became a New York Times bestseller. Well, now he has rewritten it with the focus on young adults as his audience, and it is out now. Chasten Buttigieg, welcome back to The Issue Is. Good to see you. Thanks for being here, and congrats on the new book and on the old book. All right, we got them both. I read them both. They're both really well done. Why was it important for you to do a second version?
Yeah, this book is the book I wish I would have had in 8th grade. I wanted to write the book I wish I could go back in time and hand to my younger self. There's so many things that I couldn't put in the first book. I started writing that 2 years ago. I did not think that it would come out during this season of politics.
Right.
But as things started changing, I was thinking about what do young people need to hear right now? And also, what book could teachers and parents use to empathize with what young people might be going through? Well,
and you actually include some photos, which we have, of you back then when you were one of those young people. And we love the haircut. Very nicely done. Those are some of your medals there.
There's the minivan.
So talk to us about your journey back then. When did you, as a young person, know, I think I'm gay?
Well, for a while, I thought, I didn't have the language for it. So I thought I was the only person in the world maybe feeling that way. I didn't have the vocabulary for all of those feelings going on inside. It was 3rd, 4th grade when I knew something was up.
Really?
Yeah, and then about the time I was 9 years old, that's when Matthew Shepard happened. And then some alarms went off.
I was a gay person who was killed
yes.
in a
and,
horrible homophobic attack.
And it was politicized, and it was all over the country. Matthew Shepard was taken in a pickup truck, and he was tied to a fence post and left for dead. And I was growing up in northern rural conservative Michigan around a lot of pickup trucks and fence posts. And that's when I started learning the words to describe what I was feeling, and not only coming into that understanding of who I was, but if the world finds out, everything that I was hearing from my 4-H group, my church, and then on the news was that, you will lose everything, people won't love you, people think it's wrong, and you might die.
And you were afraid to tell your parents, and one of your sort of regrets now is you wish that you would have told them earlier, because once you did, you felt love back from them.
I did receive love back from them after I ran away from home after I came out when I was 18, and lucky me, there was a rainbow at the end of that story, pun intended.
Yes.
But my parents called me back home. They loved their son more than the fear of raising a gay son. I just wish that we had grown up in a time when it was okay to have those conversations. And I have been talking on this book tour nonstop about how important it is that parents have that conversation with their kids when they're young. We love you unconditionally. Whether you're gay, straight, bi, trans, whoever you are, you'll always have a roof over your head and parents who love you.
Yeah, and not only just parents, but like for people that are experiencing that process of coming out, and people want to be allies, but maybe they don't know what to say when somebody says, I'm gay. It's like, what's your advice for people of what they should say in that moment?
Oh, if someone comes out to you, the first thing you should say is thank you for sharing that with me. Because if somebody has decided that you are a safe person to tell that information to, that means you've done something right as a parent, as a teacher, or as a friend. And so understand that that person might be going through so much. They might be afraid, terrified that they'll lose you as a friend. I remember coming out to my friends and, I lost some friends, and it strengthened my other friendships. But the number one thing I just wanted to hear was, that's great. Thank you for sharing that with me. I love you just the same.
You're a father now. We've got some great pictures of your very cute kids as well. We see them there with your husband. And I know when you were writing this, you had in mind them, that they would one day read this book.
Yeah.
What do you want them to know about you from this?
Yeah, I was a year into writing this, and then the twins were born. And it really just brought the mission of the book into focus. What I wanted them to know, that I will love them unconditionally, and I want to be there to watch them blossom into whoever they are going to become. I hope that one day my kids will ask me why it was so important to write a book like this. Why were we fighting over simple things like equality, marriage, families? So hopefully one day it becomes irrelevant to them. But I hope they're comforted by the words that are in it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because when it comes to gay rights, it seems like we were on a path of going in one direction and now maybe we're going the other direction. Because you look at, for example, the fight over same-sex marriage, which was one of the most successful recent political movements in decades. 2008, here in California, California voters said no to gay marriage. By 2015, it's legal all across the country. What do you think that trans people, who seem to be the most at risk right now, can learn from the success of the gay marriage movement?
Well, I would flip that and say that many people who were part of, the marriage equality movement now need to learn from the trans community about what they need and how they can be better allies. Of course, we have achieved progress in the LGBTQ community. When I was a kid, I never thought I'd get to wear this wedding ring. I certainly never thought I was going to become a dad. And I think many of the people who are in positions of power or who have seen, more rights come into their life than, for example, our trans friends. It's now our turn to listen and to do the advocacy and the work, because you can't put all that work on the shoulders of trans Americans. So for me, just as a gay man, I don't know what it's like to be a transgender American. So I sit down, I close my mouth, and I turn my listening ears on, like we used to say in classroom. And I try to learn how I can be the best advocate and ally for trans Americans. But I think it starts with listening.
Well, and let's talk about that book tour. We've got a graphic of you going all around the country, including to some of these red states where this is really an issue. And a lot of people are feeling very vulnerable right now. What are people saying to you? This is some of the spots where you're going across the country. What are people saying to you?
I am hearing from a lot of people the exhaustion and the fear of what is going on in politics, and the frustration that it does seem like those in elected office and positions of power aren't focused on real-world issues, especially gun violence. And as a former teacher myself, I can empathize with the feeling that these people go to work and the thing that they're really upset about are drag queens, and the fact that some really vulnerable kids in our country might need access to life-saving care. When you have an entire generation of kids who have gone through school in this country, some of them seeing their friends hauled out of school in body bags. Generation lockdown, we call it. An entire generation of kids who went through school, going to school every day, wondering if that might be their last. Why are we not focused on that? If that data doesn't scare you into action, and the fact that 40% of the kids sleeping on the street tonight identify as LGBTQ, and 1 in 2 trans kids in this country will attempt to take their life. If all of that data doesn't scare you as an elected official into doing the right thing and being on the right side of history, and instead you are emboldened to go to work and continue attacking vulnerable people, that's shameful.
Yeah, and you describe it as the 3 C's, which is why these trans issues are. What are those 3 C's?
Yeah, clout, clicks, and cash. It's so easy to go on social media or the floor of the United States House and say something ridiculous, audition for late night TV, go there, say something ridiculous, send out the email, raise money off of it. It certainly has brought people into higher positions of power within the Republican Party. They raise a lot of money off of that hate and divisiveness, and it's a lot of clickbait for them. Push people to their podcasts, push people to their websites, but it's so far removed from what people need them to be focused on right now. And we're talking about kids. We're talking about vulnerable kids. And so I would hope that they would be empowered to slow down and listen and invite people to the table, learn from families, learn from teachers, and learn from professionals in their field about what it is actually like to be not only an LGBTQ person, but especially a trans person in this country.
That is such a serious and important discussion. We're going to end with something fun, though, because we do like to play some games on this show. And this is called the name game. And so these are people that you know, and it's the first word that comes to mind or short phrase, okay?
Oh, no.
You ready?
All right. You put me on the spot last time on the show, and I was very bad at it.
Yes. Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg.
Hardworking.
First Lady of the United States, Jill Biden.
Extremely loving.
Second Gentleman of the United States, Doug Emhoff.
Only one word?
You can do a few if you want.
Dad vibes. He's got great dad vibes.
Former Vice President Mike Pence.
Lost.
Beyonce.
Ah, Queen.
And finally,
Can't get tickets still, by the way, Beyonce, if you're listening.
Finally, Harry Potter.
Oh, old school. I got that analogy a lot in school.
Yeah.
It's the round glasses.
Yeah. Well, you know you love Harry Potter, right?
Yeah,
and so,
I did when I was a kid, obsessed.
Yeah. So we're going to go to break with a tribute to that love. Bill Malugin talking the border when we come back. But first, some music from Harry Potter just for Chasten Buttigieg.
What a send-off.
Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Good to see you again.
Stuff. And this is the Harry Potter theme that we go to break with. Bring it back.
That takes me back.
You got to check out Universal Studios while you're here.
I was the first kid in line in Traverse City when the first movie came out.
Wow.